our session, I think, is the most not so interesting one because everyone has talked about AI, technology, measurement and everything. But I think our topic is very relevant in today's time because, in most of the companies, regional media is much more important than, the mainline media. Uh, like, in my company where we are engineering consultants and we work on bridges, rails, dams, infrastructure. And for us, all the remote places is where we are present. And for us, communication to the regional communication or the regional newspaper is much more important than getting into Times of India Economic Times. And we are not a listed company, neither we are going to get listed. So for us, Economic Times is good, but I don't know how much it will help in our business. But having said that, all of a sudden after, COVID, the actual digital transformation has happened and slowly all the mainline newspapers like English newspaper are going, digital. And even the regional media is also following, but I don't see that many regional media which is coming more into the social or digital format, but I'm sure it will. Rajiv ji, any thoughts on that?
Hello. Yeah. No, it's first of all, thanks Comzanda and E4M. I think this is a very, very pertinent topic. We all, at one point of time, did think how to get our regional lists really roughed up and spruced up in that level that अगर हम छत्तीसगढ़ बिहार पटना कहीं पर भी जाएं at least we have the first list that is with us. But to slightly contradict, I mean, regional media has now also evolved very much digitally. Yeah, it's not a contradiction in that sense,
Yeah,
but most of these regional publications have converted themselves into these e-papers rather than physical papers. And it's only the bigger regional publications, in that sense, just to name a few, it's like the Hari Bhumis of the world and all that, who've actually gone ahead and still made themselves relevant with the print format which is there. But nonetheless, and as you rightly said, whether you're from the infrastructure or me from the healthcare, systems itself, for us, the entire regional peripheral becomes an important stakeholder because health is a subject that impacts the guy down there.
absolutely.
The tier 3, tier 4 cities where we're talking about Ayushman Bharat today, we're talking about, how the last mile healthcare delivery is going to be delivered and, the immense number of schemes which each and every government after government kind of like announces, whether it is a Ma Yojana in, Gujarat or whether it is, the Annapurna Yojana down south and all that. They make headlines in the regional media. They make people aware of the kind of things that are going to be available to them. Let's not talk about even, your healthcare or infrastructure. Basic things like your Aadhars and everything. These days, it's become such a buzzword down the regional media. And they've really progressed it well in terms of catapulting from the cliche kind of journalistic stories that we used to really pitch or read at one point of time to the stories that relay regionality to centrality,
Yeah.
from region to the center, is what the change has really happened, and we see the change on a regular basis. Parties have, one point I think in the presentation that. The email that Karan had sent was political parties also using regional
Absolutely.
media.
So we'll come back to that also.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You look at the parties, they've minted on regional media, especially, the ruling government, they've minted on regional media. So just to discredit, in fact, the earlier panel, they're talking about tech and then they said regional media is now just fading away. I mean, there was a, just a passing remark. I mean, um it's the metro psyche that we're
Yes,
kind of
exactly.
like looking into.
Exactly.
Let's move away from it. Regional media is going to stay and it's going to stay forever. But the other thing is, a lot of national media, don't want to name any of the publications or channels, are really engulfing on regional media also. I mean, you're acquiring them. M&As are happening in
Yeah.
the publication worlds and the so I think it's good time for regional media also.
Like, if you look at the IRIS data, I think in the top 10 newspapers, I think there is only Times of India, which is most probably 6th or 7th, and rest all are regional media, right? So, Jyotsna, you being in a company where regional media and your regional outreach is very much important for the brand. I mean, obviously, the mainline, TOI and ET is also important, but I think going to the regional side, going in depth into the tier 2, tier 3 cities is very important. So, any thoughts on that?
So, very basic maths if you do, we are the fifth largest economy, expected to become the third largest economy by 2030. And, okay. And as per the Deloitte report on future of retail, it says, if the numbers are correct, I think if I remember correctly, 930 billion is the USD billion is the market for retail, of which only 205 is for metros and tier 1. All the rest is from tier 2, tier 3 and regional or rural. So that's where the market is, and it's never going to go beyond, it's only going to grow. In fact, as per the same data or the report, it says by 2030, it's going to become 1930. It's currently 930 and it's going to become 1930. And it's expected, the growth is going to come from tier 2, tier 3 rural markets. So that's where the market is. So it's definitely going to stay. And for for an FMCG conglomerate like us, it's definitely the market for us to be in. In fact, when I was asked what's the session that you would want to be a part of, my first choice was regional PR.
I think all of us has opted for
Nobody
this session only.
Yeah, because this is something that nobody wants to address.
Yeah, yeah.
But that's where the market is.
Yeah. So I still remember when I was young. I'm still young, but 10, 15 years back, we used to take press release and used to go to INS, and that is where I met Pratik Chatterjee for the first time. Jokes apart, as this is a regional media discussion, I think I will be allowed to ask questions in Bengali to Anindita, if everyone allows me. Again, just joking. But Anindita, how important is regional media especially for L&T as a group, and then again into the metro side?
Regional media definitely, it's very important. By 2025, I think 56% of the internet users would be from
Absolutely.
rural or regional background.
Yeah.
And because see, digitization has taken that shape that people are more into the targeted audience. Now here again, it depends whether it's PR or digital. Now, what is our target audience? Like when I used to work for Metro, my target audience was city specific. It was lifeline for the city. So when we had started the social media, we used to do a lot of content, or even traditionally, like for press releases when we used to draft, a lot of content was overall general national with a national touch, so that even some national paper publication, they can regard that. But later on we realized that when we did a survey, that most of the people, about 87% of the users, especially on the digital platform, they want more of local media. Especially
And I know also to add, especially with metros which are in regional areas, the billboards and the advertisement site is also in regional language.
Yes, indeed. See, that's what I'm saying. It depends who is your target audience.
Yeah.
And also, it is so important that people, both sides of me sitting there, being in Delhi, they said that they travel around 15 to 20 days, they come to Hyderabad. So it means that how communication or PR is important. That's the reason. Otherwise, they are not into operations or the base, the business part of it or operations, but they come because they are from the communication background. So it is very, very important, essential to touch the, to change the tone and touch the heart of the people to
Yes.
know its
Yeah.
culture, the
Yeah.
ethos, and then develop your strategy, it's I would say a blend of art and science.
Yeah.
So how do you do it? You have to first see your target audience. You have to see the, the people, what they want to see. Now, a too sophisticated national content, maybe, okay, it will be read once by the national PR community or the media or the, the decision takers, but it won't touch the heart of the people at the base. It won't resonate. So that's the reason why we need
yes,
more
you're
of
right,
rural local content.
Like a city like Calcutta, people will be taking Times of India, but along with Times of India, they will be having Ananda Potrika also, Statesman also.
Absolutely.
So there are always this emotional connect with the readers, and whenever marketers or communicators like us has to,
Absolutely.
devise a campaign, we always has to keep this thing in
Always has
mind.
to. Even in Hyderabad, like you can count the English publications.
Yeah.
There are at least 12, 13 or more regional papers and channels. There are about 20 channels. I'm talking about the small, big, everything together. So that's the importance of the regional connect.
Mr. Patnaik, your views?
Hi, a very good evening to all. Yes, I have a slightly different perspective. I'm echoing all the thoughts of all the thought leaders over here about the importance of regional PR. It's very important to understand whether we are marketeers or communicators, what is the language the consumer wants to understand. Many a times we do the blunder of talking and thinking what we feel is right, but what does consumer want to hear and listen? So there is this ROPO syndrome, which is research online, purchase offline, which is extremely important for a consumer across any genres or society. So I think regional PR, while we need to balance and understand all the ecosystem very well, like you, whether it is Haribhumi, whether it is Sambad in Orissa, is it being replaced by Pramay? Is it Matrubhumi replacing Malayalam Manorama? I think the most important task is also people call Jharkhand's paper as Prabhat Khabar, right? Or Amar Ujala for Uttarakhand. And so it is important to know that where is your target consumer consuming content regionally and addressing that as a hygiene, as a always on. But interestingly, there is a shift which is happening to digital PR in regional. You would be quite surprised. I would add to what Jyotsna, I think she told about the data. 95% of the YouTube consumption happens from tier 3, 4, 5. That's the surprise. Mobile consumption has edged past TV in terms of content consumption.
That's true.
So, exactly. So now, I think Way to News is a aggregator like the Daily Hunt, which is catering to the entire South.
Yeah.
So what I'm trying to tell you is, understand your regional media very well, because the ecosystem, the legacies have toppled off late.
Yeah.
Have your go beyond IRS and all those datas. Check a Nai Duniya in Bihar is also very popular and being read by people. Also, there is a huge regional influencer shift that's happening, Bhaskar, which I must tell you, which makes your brand look rooted, raw and real. I think they understand the narrative
Absolutely.
which consumers like to listen, and the way you can make your brand stand out in the clutter. That's what a regional or a micro influencer does. So maybe a little later, if you ask me this, I would throw more light on that. But as of now, I feel these two are important pillars, and there is a third pillar which is evolving. How well are you using your retailers, your partners,
Absolutely.
and activating them as your regional influencer? That's a heavy, healthy PR lying within your organization. So I think it's marrying these three brothers or sisters together into getting a lovely regional PR formula.
You're right. When I was fortunate to handle a brand like Samsung, and Samsung always used to come up with this thing that apart from the traditional media, which can be a mix of English and regional, you should always go for YouTubers and others. And Technical Guruji is in Hindi, and its reach is far, far, far better. Its impact on the young purchaser is much more. Yeah. So Rozelle, before this panel we've been talking, and you said that you have handled many regional campaigns for various brands, while working with various different brands. So if you can, say a few words on the brands you have worked for and the kind of experience you have.
Sure. So thanks first of all for asking the question. So, I believe that, you work to build the brand as a verb, the household name that it becomes. And if the household comprises of the, regional world at large, then regional media is indispensable, right? And regional media, I would say, are three different things. One, how do you broadcast the shareholders, the stakeholders? Two, of course, newspapers. And three, the social media, the digital part of it, right? A back of the book calculation, the total readership of the top 10 most circulated publications in the, English belt is nowhere close to the eyeballs that the regional media gets. So if you have to go beyond, media, if you have to really connect with your, audience at large, tell them the stories that resonate with them, you have to go beyond, the usual traditional media platforms. And the story is same for ShareChat, Moj, and all these platforms where,
So any
50,
specific
60%.
brand you handled
So,
for this?
coming to that, so, now coming to the part where, regional media and how it is very different from an Amazon to a, a HDFC Bank to a BMW, everyone is different. I worked for a fintech company more closely in the crypto space, and I have worked with one of the gaming brands. And very specifically, regional media was huge because these are, technology brand, new age technology where, the youth was catching up and also falling prey. So creating awareness for them, telling them what is right, what is not, and how to really adapt to these changing, new age emerging technologies, it was indispensable. It was part of the larger comm strategy, larger group vision. So if, say for instance, there was a player, suicide that happened somewhere in, Kerala, for instance, getting an awesome founder interview in one of the leading publications won't help at all. So for us, it was a part of the strategy, and we really did not do it in a reactive way, that today there is a suicide, so tomorrow let's go to Manorama and speak about something. We had a very strong, PR support there, where we wanted to put together a bunch of things that broadcast our, shareholders at large, be it, the government there. It was a very core part of our policy level corporate affairs agenda. How do we inform, educate, tell them what this is? So a lot of proactive steps through social media, through, various other mediums that we took. So very specific to, some of the campaigns that we did. So Rummy, of course, you've heard a lot about it. I was part of one of the leading, unicorns in that space. And that point of time, there were like 5, 6 state bans happening. So there was no other way but to talk to them through the language, with the community, in the language they understand, in the format they want. So it became an indispensable part of it. But I mean, coming back to the point that it may be very different for different brands. For the kind of brands that I worked for, it was absolute necessity. But I also believe that, regional media is something which people think it's a good to have, right? Like, okay, if there's a huge agency coming on board, and okay, regional media is a plus that comes along with it. So it's a good to have, let's have it. I think it is slowly and slowly becoming a part of the mainstream discussion. Today we are having this conversation, we have a 40
Absolutely.
minutes discussion in itself shows that, there is a super need and, urgency to actually make it a part of the mainstream conversation, where we look at the Bharat for PR and not
So just to add to what you guys have said, the
We just need one question to complete 40 minutes, in fact. Yeah. Yeah.
no, so
That's the power, huh?
trust is the most important thing that people get from local publications. So
Absolutely.
when Bhaskar mentioned, they'll, subscribe to a Anand Bazar Patrika, etc., it's primarily because you still trust that local publication as compared to a national publication. Also, it brings in a lot of cultural relevance,
Yes.
community engagement.
Yes.
I'm able to do probably targeted or optimal advertising I can do They can give me insights which will be local insights,
Road
hyper-local
shows,
insights.
events,
Yeah,
multiple
so the
things.
hyper-local insights will come from publications when they tell me, no, you don't advertise on this, but leverage this event. Those are the kind of insights, or that's how powerful and important it is.
And Rozelle, after this session, you can actually have a chat with Himang, and you guys can discuss about the gaming industry and the challenges. But having said that, in recent times we have heard that the ad revenues for print newspaper is going down, and it's been expected that with the upcoming 2024 elections, the ad revenues again are going up. Now, when you slice it, you actually see that the ad revenues for regional newspapers is actually going up, right? More than the national newspaper. So I'll actually place it in this way: for regional or national parties, national dailies is good to have, but regional newspaper is completely good, critical. Any thoughts, Mr. Chhibber?
Well,
Or rather, Dr. Chhibber?
well, technically, we've seen a lot of ad revenue go down the regional side. If you look at the 5 elections that just happened, just see the amount of even smaller publications, and I was fortunately traveling during those times, not for elections, but generally for a lot of health stuff that we do. The amount of real-time advertisements by even a local councillor. I'm not talking about a mega rally that KTR will hold, or someone in Madhya Pradesh will actually end up doing. A local councillor utilizing a half-page advertisement, giving you 5 categories where you have this as a promise by our party, and it's making roadways. Look at the amount of videos that are circulated. Half of the time, down the peri-urban population, these videos make an impact, a mind impact. The way the videos portray the parties, the way the videos portray development, the way the videos portray their national sentiments, those become like hugely hit videos and virally spread across.
Yeah.
And these groups have mushroomed. I mean, she just mentioned all of them. Your ad revenues, your marketing revenues, your WhatsApp revenues, whatever digital source revenues, the amount which has gone down to the regional setup is almost manifold than what you see here.
Absolutely.
Here you'll just find Shila Niyaz by Honorable, and then that's it.
And also,
Who's bothered about that Shila Niyaz? The next day, till the next 5 days, the local publications will talk about that Shila Niyaz, will talk about how development will happen, will talk about how water will be accessible, will talk about how villages will have new pakka houses, will talk about how employment will be generated. That's the entire thing, that we still use this for our roti, kapda and makan.
Absolutely.
And that's what the politicians are using it for.
Hey, in fact, availability of data, thanks to Jio and other service providers, availability of low cost or affordable smartphone has actually, enabled all the consumers to consume news in the digital format. And I think regional newspapers are actually using it in a better way. So any thoughts on that? I mean, especially for your brand and your products, it's very much
I
necessary.
have a slightly diverse,
Different, okay.
different opinion, in the sense that in the assembly elections, a lot of regional media makes sense. In the national elections, spend is more in the national publications. And for the regional publications, it's about bringing relevance of a national, whatever agenda that you have to the local level. If it doesn't make sense to me, or if it doesn't tell me what's the impact it is going to have on my life, it is not relevant to me. So that's how it is. And I was in the morning speaking to somebody at Information Broadcast Ministry to understand, what is it that is happening, or what is it that they're going to do. And they feel that they'll be able to, understand, or data tells them where is it that they need to advertise, who do they need to speak to, so the TG that is there, and speak exactly in that language at that level, so they are able to do that optimal advertising also.
In fact, when you're talking about regional, it's not about the print, it's also about radio. Radio
Yeah,
has
yeah.
come up
So
very well.
voice is so important.
Yeah.
Extremely important. Local content is consumed like how, and we all know, I mean, that's the reason why your Moj, your ShareChat, your TikTok,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I mean, they emerge because of that. In fact, for some of our brands, we work with content creators at the regional level. You wouldn't have ever heard of them. So we get very impactful, effective videos made at optimal pricing. I mean, we don't pay more than 7,000-8,000.
So from influencers to micro-influencers to micro-influencers.
Yeah, yeah. And they're so impactful because they speak in the local language. They understand the nuances. They make it relevant to you. So you can't have a, one size fits all. So you can't have Garba in Bengal and Durga Puja somewhere else. So they are able to localize it. And that's how you are able to make yourself relevant also.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think very interesting discussion. I had few insights on this. A lot depends on the objective which you want to drive as a brand. If your objective is reach, you go for a print or a TV for that matter. But if you want to drive affinity and saliency, you go for an outdoor. And that also again depends on the receptiveness of the consumer for that particular. And your digital drives both reach and engagement. Now, the case for the matter is, why am I going to advertise in a particular platform? How do I track it? Now, with the shift moving from traditional to the new age digital piece and all that, whatever you're doing, anything which is not measurable, Bhaskar, I think it is gone in the drain. That is the advantage which digital is offering nowadays. You pay, I will not name any platform, you pay a particular platform X amount of money, and you pay a particular digital platform Y amount of money. For you to map the digital output and outreach is very easy. If you do a roadblock in an entertainment platform or the world's #1 OTT platform, next day you can check how does your Google search go for your brand. How does the search trend move vis-a-vis a traditional advertising what you do. So that's what, how much of people are engaging, the share, like and comments. So I think as communicators, till the time we are able to show the results of what we have done, then we get a seat easily as a part of the business team and not as a shared service or just confining ourselves to press release media. And
no, absolutely.
Yes, and one very important topic which she told, that in regional PR we normally do it as a tick mark activity, you know, putting everything to the stringers. How many times have we gone and seen that Gujarat Samachar doesn't give you a coverage as quickly? Whether Samaj wants advertisement for this or a Dainik Bhaskar doesn't. So I think lot of personal touch is required for communicators to eradicate all these syndrome. Because consumers look at regional publications for driving perception. Brands have to drive perception. So I think that's the perspective I wanted to get.
Bhaskar, the management also needs to be educated, because
this is the most important point which I was going to ask. You know, we are talking about regional media's importance, but you know, when it comes to either the agency guys or the corporate communication guys, it's very difficult to, you know, convince your MDC or the senior management to get, you know, let them speak with the regional media, because I think there is a fixation with, you know, the mainline newspapers, especially with Times of India, Economic Times. I'm not, you know, demeaning their stature. They are obviously, and in their own way, they are good. But this fixation for, you know, the senior management is very difficult to, you know, break. Although in last 3.5 years I've been able to convince my MD to speak with
even if you bring the coverage
media.
further, they'll say, "Acha, ye to regional ka hai. What's about the, you know, what is the status of national coverage?"
No,
or,
so
or
there is
English dailies.
So
you know, they don't regard. So that needs to be.
I completely agree. I have seen one problem in my office that, you know, if someone, if like my MD has gone to say down south, and there is a multiple coverages which has come. Now, unfortunately, none of us, neither the senior management team nor me, can actually understand the language. So it's a time-consuming thing. Maybe that is also kind of deterrent for the, you know, senior management, because they're not been able to understand the impact then and there.
I think I have a point to add there.
Yeah.
Having worked with a, you know, profitable unicorn, which is very tough, where, you know, time is the only thing that's the most critical thing, right? I think one thing I had this conversation, and I remember saying one thing that really worked for me for the rest of my tenure there was, till the time your parents in your hometown know your brand, are picking it up, you are not building a brand. Do you want your brand to be a verb?
Well said, well said.
That's how it is.
Absolutely.
And henceforth, from there on, I had always, whenever it came to budgeting for time, we would always say, okay, for regional media, we'll do these recurring meetings. Let's block time. If it doesn't happen, we'll release the times well in advance. So that was the deal. And eventually, there was a point, and when I was with the other company, the same thing happened in crypto. And we ended up doing regional tours. We went to meet Sakal, we would go to Malala Manorama. And the value is never really that, okay, today there is a fire and we are going to douse
And
it.
the kind of insights they share
Correct.
is much beyond.
The questions are very close to people because for them, they are having the chai conversation with someone who is actually playing rummy, maybe, or someone who is actually buying crypto, or someone who is actually transacting on, one of the payment apps, for instance, right? So I think the insights are more real, not hypothetical, and it also brings back a lot of business insights for all of us. I think so.
One thing I have seen, I would just like to supplement her thoughts. Many people think regional publications without advertisement, they don't work.
But they do, yeah.
But there is a way to get this worked out. I must voice this out. Regional publications want spokespersons to interact with them.
Absolutely.
Many a times you see the difference. You give them a press release or you arrange a webinar or a call or a press conference or a round table, you will have a better impact when you face them because they feel important, they feel also required because each of these regional publications have a national head sitting over there. So I think that's probably one way also to counter, especially, which most of the communicators I think would be facing in getting good spreads. And also local festivals, we must not forget, like the Shravani Melas, Kanvarya Yatra or the Sabrimala Ayappa in Kerala. I think that's one great way when a brand does emotional connect and participates. Use your PR to amplify and tell people that I am connected with you locally, meaningfully and through emotional festival. So I think that's a very good opportunity.
That connect has to be there. But,
yes.
but I completely agree when, especially when I was handling a lot of, mobile handset manufacturing firms, I've seen them, doing a press conference where they invite everyone. And after the press conference at 3 o'clock, they have a separate regional meeting, and it's like 20 people over there and the spokesperson along with 2 technical guys explaining the data, the technical specs of the mobile, and they're very happy and nobody has asked for advertisement, and the kind of coverage spread you get, that's huge. So how difficult it is to, convince your senior management to engage, speak and spend time with, regional media?
No, honestly not difficult because they also understand the product is very city specific, it's not national because our line runs in the city of Hyderabad. But I'll tell you, there are people who understand. When I was in GMR, Hyderabad airport, so we had launched a very unique program called Fly Via Hyderabad. So basically what we did, we went to all the 2 and 3 tier cities around Hyderabad and explained to them the benefits of traveling via Hyderabad instead of, suppose, a Pune, just for a small example. So instead of taking a cab to Mumbai airport, you reach and again go to international airport, or you travel domestic and again go to international airport. So we used to go and explain them. So what we had divided was a day, like the first half used to be the press conference with the regional media and the second half with the travel agents.
Yeah.
Let me tell you, tangibly, the footfalls increased and it was a huge success. So it is important, again, what is the story you want to tell, who's your audience, and what is that you want to achieve. Especially I think for B2C, it works even better.
Any thoughts, Dr. Chhibber?
No, I completely agree. In fact, nahi.
What does it mean, 10 minutes?
Yeah.
It
Says time's up.
So we'll take one answer from Chhibber sir and final closing remark from Jyotsna. Yeah.
No, I completely agree. In fact, those kind of ideas that really come to the regional media are very seldom, and very seldom do they also interact with top level people.
True.
And for instance, I've actually looked into environment, development and healthcare so much over the last almost like 17, 18 years now. It's really that I know that my top management will go down to Jharkhand and in fact we had a press conference in Dantewada itself.
Oh.
Which is
Very tough belt, huh?
yeah, very tough. And we spent almost like 3.5 months preparing for that. It's not like preparing spokespersons and all that, but obviously, gathering
Even
people.
media training is required for local.
Yeah. Nuances.
So Karan will not take much time because there is another event which is supposed to be scheduled. Yeah, any questions? Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think Goldie touched on it.
Goldie touched on it very well. In fact, I think he gave a very good, overview around
So
it.
if you want to explain it again with, yeah.
Yeah. So I think out of the 4 or 5 perspectives, this is one of the perspective that regional media coverage, it is difficult. But I will not name the publication. Bihar, there is Gujarat, Orissa, Calcutta, many papers, they don't do anything without advertisement. I think the biggest mistake what we do is we depend on stringers, especially if we have agency and if it's not a big agency, they have stringers, right? I think couple of times try and speak and interact, go once to the difficult nut which
Absolutely,
is to crack.
absolutely.
Go to the person, share information, have a friendly chit chat, maybe just give your product for a review and say good, bad, ugly, I'll take it. You need to have confidence on your product. And then you probably see that's one way of relationship building where he knows you. Number 2, because most of the time what happens, the stringer goes with multiple communication and releases. So he gets very irritated, the publication. The second aspect is also try and have an interaction arranged of your spokesperson with him. Say that I'm doing something meaningful for your market. This is the brand's commitment to that market. Show them the footprint you have, show them the consumer connect we are offering and the service. Then you see the kind of respect that comes in. I think it will have a lot of your problems sorted because they also look for information the way you look for coverage.